This week on Scene, I sit down with Rachael Webb from Sticky and Data Source for a conversation on creative partnerships, internet culture, human behaviour, and why the best marketing rarely follows a formula. We get into the psychology behind why people buy things, why smaller brands are often moving faster than legacy players, the tension between originality and efficiency, and why creators should be trusted to cook instead of being overmanaged by brands. There's also chat around influencer marketing blowing up into $1 billion industry, the emotional side of agency life, relationship-led growth, reality TV brain rot, Coke Zero addictions, McCain frozen pizzas, and a genuinely elite nacho business concept. If you work in socials, marketing, partnerships or creative, there's a lot in this one. Proudly brought to you by Sked Social, the social media workspace for teams who take social seriously. Well, your background's interesting. It's in the art industry, and now you're working in partnerships brand. Like, how did your world in this world start?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, so my degree that I have is in creative direction and styling, which is technically a fashion degree. Like, technically I was going to go into like garment construction and like photography and magazines and all these like really exciting things. And I think in my like final semester of uni, I had this like crushing realization of just like commercial viability of those jobs, and not from like I need to make money instantly, but from like if I actually want to like progress in my young career, I probably need to be focusing on maybe a new media form and not so much like a traditional media form, which I guess has paid off now well. But pivoted slightly in my last semester, and I presented this like virtual reality like AR like presentation essentially at my panel, to which the host of the uni was like, I do not know how to respond to this. Like, this isn't a magazine. This isn't like a styling shoot. No one's ever done this. I ended up like, I think I just got a HD by default because I didn't know how to market. And then I was like, cool. Well, I'm going to see if I can get like marketing, like tech creative, like content jobs. Moved kind of for a pivot into luxury for a minute to see how it would go, was sort of wanting to just like dabble, try and get a content job. Didn't really try too hard. And 3 months in, a friend of mine who was working in branding said, hey, we need a video editor. I feel like you can do it. Do you want to try it? And then moved into that. Got made redundant at the start of COVID and went, oh, damn, like, what do I do now? And got an agency job. And pretty well from there, started as a graphic designer, moved my way through sort of the rungs. I figured out pretty early on I was very interested in like consumer psychology and like how like what you design can impact the way someone feels about your brand, the way someone perceives your brand, the way like I guess the status in which it holds. And from there, just sort of jumped through a lot of different marketing buckets. So I went from design into CRM because it was like a natural like connection of all of those things. Then went into like paid ad strategy, figured out along the way there. And I think the managers of our agency figured out as well that I could talk really confidently. So they started putting me across like new business, and I started like thinking about like psychology of design a bit more, and then jumped through a few more hoops and then started Sticky with the team, which is like creator content. And now we're kind of here. It's very full circle, but it's all still rooted in like the psychology of like why people think that way and how like design can sort of make people feel a certain way, which I guess started with like the way an outfit can make you feel better in the morning and has ended with like, here's how 10 different brand touch points can communicate a vision.
It's weird, isn't it? It's like the things you obsess about as a kid or that you want to do, and it ends up becoming like the same but different. It's like, I never thought I'd get a kick out of sequencing emails and shit, you know, and it's like, that's creative, you know, and I feel like for someone like yourself who seems very like driven, ambitious and curious, is it just following what you're sort of naturally thinking about, and like, how do you get the confidence to be yourself in those situations to like make the most out of those opportunities as well?
Yeah, I think like I've always led with curiosity, like just ask the question, but also just try the thing. And I think those two together have just resulted in, you know, me being in a room with, say, like, I remember being in a room with someone from a big email like provider that we were working on a partnership model with. And I just started asking questions about how it works. From there, they just saw that I was interested. And I think in marketing, there's so many people and there's so many ways to approach it that sometimes it's the interest and the curiosity that makes people sort of like back you. They're less so going to back you if you just enter it with like guard up and think that you know what you're doing. And I very clearly didn't know what I was doing. So asked the questions and then just found myself building relationships. I think so much of it comes down to just my ability to stand in a room with people I don't know and walk up to someone and have a conversation, which is, it's not me on every single day. Like, I'm not the biggest extrovert in the whole wide world. But now after that and just backing myself, like if you can think the right way, you can do it. Like marketing's like a thought process. It's not necessarily like a science that you need to do 10 degrees to get into. Like you just have to think like the people. And I think I'm quite good at thinking like the people.
Honestly, I love that. And what you say is so right. I think like a lot of B2B growth now is relationship led. And that's something that like, as someone who myself doesn't see myself as like an intellect, it's like, I got to rely on something else. Like I got to build some other skill, or I got to be more courageous than the smartest person or something. So it's like, what can be my thing? And like skill stacking, like it's weird because it's like, jack of all trades, whatever, but it's more just like, I feel like your career path's been cool because you've done a lot of different things, so you understand how things work, and then more importantly, how to communicate with people in those positions. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And our managing director actually always says that like he's just in the business of hiring people smarter than him. And I think when I first started in marketing, I was like, oh, I'm going to be the smartest person in the whole wide room. And then I realized that that's just like not really sustainable nor necessary. Like I'd rather know how it works enough to have a really good conversation on it and like empathize and be able to relate and sort of figure out the best solution, but then have, you know, team members that are sole experts in that trade that I can then really trustingly hand over the work to after like starting that relationship kind of thing.
I love that. And when you're like I can't even say it. Operationalizing, is that the word? Yeah. Whatever what I just said there around like relationships, I feel like people might know the right things to do, but it's like, can you naturally do it? And are you passionate about it? Like, I feel like inside of me, I genuinely like talking to people and keen to understand. Like, I know a lot of my friends hate that shit. So it's like, you know, and I'm sure you're probably the same, where it's just like, you love it, and it kind of, that seeps through rather than just someone following like a playbook, you know?
110%. You can always tell when someone's like selling to you because they have a KPI to sell, and when someone's actually talking to you because they're interested in the brand. And like, I've just so chanced upon the fact that a lot of the conversations I have are with really cool brands. So I can actually go, your product's awesome. Like, it's actually just a treat to have this chat, whether we do a deal and whether we work on a giant campaign after this or not, doesn't really matter. Like, it's all connections based, relationship based. And it's such a cool, I guess, role to be able to do that in now.
And it's not always the noisiest people, hey. It's like, because I feel like those sort of people and companies get a lot of airtime. It's the ones who are a lot of times in the shadows doing cool stuff. It's not this big song and dance about things. It's more about the work I'm seeing now. So it's like, how do you like manage that as well? Like building Sticky and Data Source, but also servicing clients and stuff as well. Like, how do you balance that?
Yeah. That's the hardest part. And like, I think that's still like now, like I've been at Data Source and Sticky for 6 years coming up in June. So a long time. Been at Sticky for 4 of those, Data Source at the 2 prior. And well, I'm at Data Source still, but for the sake of it being simple. And it's still the hardest thing to me when I feel like I've like built this really good relationship with, say, a person, and then I'm like, cool, now I'm handing this over to a team who I know and trust can do this like 10 million times better than I can do because they're experts in it. It's their craft. They do it all the time. But there's still part of me where I'm like, but if it doesn't go well, like I feel like I've like let down a friend. And I think that's like me maybe over investing in like my relationships. I think I do also need to remember, like, at the end of the day, 2 businesses, not 2 best friends. But as much as it might feel like, you know, you've built a great relationship, like at the end of the day, if it is a good foundational relationship, you know, where like conversation is the main thing and like critically solving something is, I guess, the core focus for anybody, regardless of like how you get to the work as an end result, it's going to be fine. It's that situation where it is, you know, like it's almost like dating. Like if you're like 2 steps too far in and they're only like in a situationship phase, like you're going to feel weird at the end of it. But that's how it works. Like that's a singular client, that's a singular campaign. There's going to be a million more. And I think like now for me, after skyrocketing, I guess, in terms of velocity to sort of move through roles, it's that like extra emotional development now. I built really good interpersonal skills. I built really good problem solving skills, but it's remembering like it's business. It's not like, you're not like, I don't know, selling your personal soul to someone. Like you're literally just having a conversation about doing an influencer campaign. It's okay if like the results aren't as good as they need to be. It's influencers. It's hard. You can't dictate how things will work. There's no like guarantees. And it's scary, but it's just how it is.
Like zoom out and remember the game you're playing. Hey, it's just, you can be so far in the weeds that it's hard to and like ride the emotions of stuff, especially like when you're like personally investing your skill sets and stuff, and it feels like offensive sometimes when things don't go right, or you're trying to make excuses, but a lot of the time it's like the best feedback, and it's just like just do more to understand more. And I think that's what the best people know. It's just like you got to have a thick skin. And I'm someone with a massive ego, and I've had to get it checked a lot of times. So it's like, yeah, I think it's a good reminder. And yeah, what you said before around, I think network is super important, but I think it's like a trusted network, like people who you genuinely back. And there's my favorite thing to do ever is to palm off to great people, because it's like, I know they're going to get looked after. I'm so confident. There's a different type of energy, and it's just, they're the people that you want to be around. Hey, like you want to create a world where everyone's sort of just like humming.
Yeah, big time. And that's like, I guess now that's the joy that I get to try and do, is like, obviously we're building out a bigger team. Like, how do we hire those people, which is kind of crazy to think in 6 years to be there. But it really is just like, it's all trust. It's all like you're dating, or no, I can't say dating your coworkers on a podcast. Well, I just did, but it's like you've got to think of it that way though. Like it's about long term. It's never about like, if we were to hire someone, or if we were to have like a freelancer, it's not about can they do it quickly and are they a resource that we can just give it to immediately and then off it goes. It's building a long-term relationship, and it's like trusting them wholeheartedly to do that. And then obviously if it doesn't work, figuring it out afterwards. Like it's simple stuff. It's just like on like topics that can be convoluted and turned into something really dramatic and of grand scale kind of thing.
Yeah, and I think like making stuff you're proud of is a good motivator as well. Like when you feel like you're contributing to culture or something, you feel like this is genuinely fucking cool. So I actually don't care what most, you know what I mean? You're like, you're that confident in what it is, and it's like, it's not data, it's not feedback, it's just a feeling, and it's hard to describe.
Well, yeah, it's also the only job that I've ever had where like I have friends who are not at all marketing related, and I can be like, how cool is this piece of work? Show them like a video that someone made, and they're like, yeah, that's cool. They can see it. Like all my other roles, you can't like necessarily say, cool, look at this like targeting I did in meta ads and this like A/B test and see how this brand lift sell one. And they're like, oh, okay, don't understand. But this, like, you can actually like, it's like a mutual language that everyone understands of marketing, which I think is like also new just for marketing generally, because it used to just be sort of behind the scenes and people didn't know what's going on, and now everyone is aware at all times and can appreciate it.
What about you personally, like learning stuff and consuming content and just being in every, because I feel like a lot of people in different industries can sort of just do their work and then come home and switch off, maybe hard, and it's just like my downtime is like the stuff I do for work too. So it's like, it feels a bit weird, and I love it, but then I'm like, fuck, I feel like I've watched every video on Instagram today. Like, what am I doing?
Yeah. It's such an interesting like balance, because my partner as well is a freelance videographer who does a lot of videography for influencers. So he works on like a classic freelancer roster where I'll come home from my like 8:30 to sort of 5 shift, and it'll be 5 and he'll be deep in editing and he'll have questions about like how things work. And so like for that, your brain to then be on for your full day of work, like problem solving, your brain to then be on for like that. And then, you decompress by watching more videos or whatever it might be. I've found I've had to like start using my hands for really random things. I'm like one of those people that has a million hobbies. So recently I've started like doing puzzles. I know that's like really lame, but they're cool puzzles. Like there's a brand called La Puz, and they're like really cool, like things like dogs playing poker around a poker table, just like cool things that you'd then want to frame. So like sitting and doing that. And then I like dabble in like making jewelry, just because like if your hands are busy, your mind is quiet, and your mind's not usually quiet if you're watching like a million pieces of content and then thinking, oh, that could be a cool thing for us to do for this client. I'm going to send that here. But then also like, you might be troubleshooting a creator contract, and then all your entire For You page is that creator, and you're like, I need to escape. So like, that's really good to reset. And I like to consume marketing like content whilst I'm at work. But if I'm listening to a podcast on the drive home, I'm listening to like a podcast between two comedians that I find really funny, to sort of disconnect and remember like the craft, as opposed to getting so zoomed in that I'm like thinking solely about strategy. Like it is about what the general people feel, and like the people that are really good at that aren't necessarily like, niching down into very specific like topics, like influencer marketing content only. They're like two comedians on a podcast having a laugh, turning it into clips.
yeah, I don't want to be inspired today. Like
Yeah,
I'm over it.
done.
I feel like I've done a lot of good stuff today. I just want to like dumb it down. I feel like a lot of people in this industry, that's why like reality TV is so big because I feel
Yeah,
like you can switch off. It's like it's real people. It's a it's a cross between real life and scripted, and it's like rather than see these stories that actors do, it's more like no, they're real people and their heart actually broke, and it's just I don't know, and you can just sort of switch off and invest in these people for the
true.
15 minutes of fame that they have, and it's like that's why escapism I feel like is undervalued in our world.
So
Yeah,
much so. Like, I think that people get so formulaic about everything in marketing. And there is a formula to like certain parts of it, not trying to discount that whatsoever. But sometimes like you can't just control the way people will respond. You don't know if a video is going to do like exceptionally well because usually it's the one that doesn't follow any ounce of formula that does well. And like that's just fact. And I think like people can take that almost as the formula. Like for
yeah,
paid ads, sure, there's a bit of a recipe. And for like certain like organic sort of pieces of content, like, yeah, you might have a series or something that works well, but it likely won't work well forever. And like, you've got to sort of be on top of it to that sense and like remember that it's like, it's people, it's lighthearted. It's not like necessarily scientific. Nothing can be engineered like when it's just human behavior on the other side.
I love that. What do you think about like the purple cow concept? Like I feel like these days streamers and people getting into content, they're just doing the most outrageous stuff for attention. It's like some of it's good and I dig it, like the tattoos,
Yeah.
losing bets and things like there's stakes, there's something on the line, like I get it, but it feels a bit like gimmicky still a little bit, and it's like I like it, but I kind of don't as well.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like guilty pleasure. Like, it's like you like it because you feel that like sense of like cringe and like you need to watch more because you're watching someone get a giant like tattoo on their leg or whatever it might be. But I don't think it's necessarily like, I don't think it translates to like sustainability from if we think of like longevity of a creator platform, like it's such a new channel. No one really knows when the like churn and burn rate is unless it's a creator, that gets cancelled. And then it's those like big creators like your classic Mr. Beast, who every video is a gimmick, that they maintain views. But like, if he then was to like flip and do an ad, like would people actually buy that? Or would they just be like, you're a billionaire? Like, we're not necessarily interested in it. So I think like sustainability of content's one thing, and then obviously like shock factor definitely has merit, but it's like I think people will be able to see through it. Like the internet's worst friend is the internet themselves, kind of thing. Like it's the comment sections, it's everyone calling it out, and 1 minute they'll like it, 1 minute they won't. So I think like all eggs in one basket's never a, never a good call in my opinion.
Yeah, and I love like yeah, it's just the Mr. Beast one's a good example. It's like that consistency
Yeah.
of just showing up. But what about like the marketing one percenters? Like
Yeah.
like I see it a lot in sports. It's like you do the extra thing and that's why they're better. It's like people doing the thumbnails and doing all the things. It's like
Yeah.
all those things add up when you do it right. And is it sustainable? I suppose it's all dependent on the team size and strategy. But like thinking about that and doing those one percenters, is that something that you implement in your world?
Yeah, I think like sustainability of it, like that can always, let's just assume in a happy world it's all sustainable and there's no issues. I
Yeah.
think 110%, that 1% is what like discerns you from your competitors. But I don't necessarily think about it in solely something that's like on socials. Like that 1% could be, someone's had a really beautiful like beautiful is such a dramatic word to use here, but someone's had a really nice like exchange of like ads and organic content and influencer content they've just bought from your brand. Product arrives, and the extra 1% is it comes with like a free gift inside and a little like handwritten note kind of thing. Like it's like tying the whole brand story together. I think 1% is from like a social like perspective. Like I think there's always really good little nuggets that you can have in it. But I think from like a being remembered outside of that, like, and this is almost like me saying it's outside of my control in a way, but like I think it's the other brand touch points that people remember, because a brand journey, I guess, isn't, a linear path of just like campaign to they follow you on organic socials, they see your organic socials for a while, they see an influencer, they see an ad and they purchase. They could have like seen you for the first time anywhere possible. So making sure you have that little 1% on every single area, it just means you're going to be remembered over your competitor, which is like the biggest problem is you might be the only brand now, but in 2 days there'll be 10 other brands that do the same thing you do. How are you going to stand out from them? And how are you going to like retain the loyalty, I guess, of someone?
That makes me, I love that. That makes me think about like originality versus like efficiency. It's like does like a really humming system like override like an original idea that's I don't know. I'm constantly wrestling with that because I feel like original ideas are that's what can get attention without doing that like purple cow leaning into all that too far, but being efficient at that. You know what I mean? It's like that fine balance, hey, because I feel like there's so many efficient machines just pumping out the most boring shit ever, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think there does need to be a line between like efficiency that has impact and efficiency that's just saying it's efficient. I think that originality will always win in some way, shape, or form, but it's so hard to be original because there's so much content just out there generally that relying on originality isn't enough to sustain you. Like there's a few instances you'll see of it nowadays with like a brand that launches first to market. And then, I mean, it's probably always happened, but I can just think of a few from the last few years. But like brand launches first to market, revolutionizes what they do. They invest in brand, they invest in everything up front. Then their competitors come through. They can move faster because they're not tied to, I guess, these now like rigid systems of scale. They move faster. They take your clients. They become, I guess, the bigger, cooler brand, or they become, I guess, like a more sustainable system of growth. It could be like a tech platform. It could be like a suitcase brand. It could be like anything. But like originality will get you the eyeball initially, but sustaining originality over time is really hard. And it would be cool if you could, but the reality is someone will catch up and innovate more because they haven't had to think of the original idea. They've just had to think of the next original idea. And I think that's like something that brands will never be able to escape. Like you can't sustainably be original every single time you do a new launch because at some point you're going to have to scale beyond that and there's going to have to be some flex. But I do think that like copying and emulating other brands isn't a solution to like building your own unique identifiable brand that stands on its own 2 feet. So
I think that's only like with the 1%, like the mischiefs of the world, where that's like that's their thing, you know, like unless that's your thing and your core business, it's very hard to do that. But I think like I found like through experience that the ones who are successful are either like super into it and understand and see gaps in the market, or ones that go in blind and that's how they get their unique perspective because they're not sidetracked by all the stuff that's going on in the world. It's like they have a vision and they're drawing from other industries and they're doing just what they think is right, but they're not necessarily consuming that stuff in that world. I feel like they can win a lot of the times because they just see things from a different lens and they push and they action them, you know?
Yeah, definitely. I have a friend who is a COO at a company and she actually posted a TikTok almost identical to what you just said the other day, where when she started being a COO, she had no idea what she was doing. And so everything was really easy because she was just thinking the first solution, the first thing that like came to mind. And that's the solution for the situation. Now, like, 6 years down the line, like she's got to think of like 10 million other things. So she moves slower. So like the things don't necessarily have the same payoff. And I think the same goes for like brands when they're not necessarily thinking about the what if, they're just like doing the thing, they move faster and they're remembered. And I think that's like the broader problem with social at the moment is everyone's aware they need it, but there's so much red tape and so many what ifs and so much fear of just like, well, if we say this, then what if it's misconstrued this way? Like there's so much policy around it that kind of defeats the point that like the reason we were watching Vines in 2014 was because they were outrageous. Like it wasn't because they followed the recipe book. It wasn't because everything had the brand font in it perfectly. Like there's so many just different layers to authenticity that I think like people crave from a brand. But I also think sometimes people crave too much authenticity because it's a brand at the end of the day. So like it's such a funny like paradox to live in.
What about like when you're working with clients and like advising them on relationships with competitors? Because I feel like a lot of the time you feel like you're competing on socials with people who do the same service. It's you're competing with everything. You're competing with Netflix. You're competing with fucking life. So it's like that's how I think about socials. But like I feel like sometimes teams can obsess too much over their competitors and just worry about what they're doing. And it's like you're always going to feel like you're behind if you're following. It's like that. Is it that Samsung versus Apple thing? It's just like, yeah, we'll just do that. No, yes, they'll be all right, but it's not really. It just feels a bit shit.
Yeah, definitely. It's one of the like one slides that regardless of what we're presenting, if ever we're doing a client strategy that we have right before we get into, I guess, the weeds of it, is like stop for a minute. Like let's do a massive zoom out. You're all way too close to your product. Like if you're at the point where like you're paying like an agency, say like Sticky or like Data Source to do work with you, like you've you will be making like, I guess, a stable amount of income each month so that you do have a team who's very, very close to the product. So like more often than not, we got 5 or 6 people in the room and it's like, you all know your product too well. Like you will forget immediately why people are actually buying. So we do this like big zoom out and it's like what actually like makes humans make decisions, like what urge is being created that makes them want this product. Then like secondarily to that, there's so many studies that have come out recently and there's some really cool stuff from High Snobiety, I think it is, around like the status era and how we've entered like this age where people are maybe considering buying, say, like a toothbrush, like something really trivial that would have been a necessity purchase like 4 years ago, but now that could signal status. And at the same time as they're considering buying a toothbrush, they might also be considering buying a phone, and those things shouldn't compete with each other, but because they both do have an outward like impact on someone's status and the way they're perceived, suddenly like that's your competition. So like you can't tell me that like Oral-B is thinking of Apple as a competitor. Well, they might be, but they're probably not. But they actually might need to consider that when they're thinking about, I guess, their marketing, because their competitor isn't just, you know, the other toothbrush in the toothbrush aisle. It's the other product that's taking the money out of the person's pocket, I guess. And it's the way that your brand's going to impact their like perceived status and value. Like if someone entered their bathroom and saw the really cool toothbrush that has an app that tells you, you know, when you're pressing too hard. That one's a bit niche. I actually have that toothbrush. But like if they walk in, they might be like, oh, she's cool. She's got a cool toothbrush. And like that's what people want. They don't necessarily just want a toothbrush to brush their teeth. That one's a really rogue example. I've never done that with a toothbrush. I don't know why. That one came to mind. But it's like valid. It's like this little lip balm. Did I buy it because I wanted it, or did I buy it because Hailey Bieber made it and everyone on TikTok told me to have it? The answer is the second one. But
I love that. That's why people wear Carhartt. That's why people do anything. It's like what I love that. It's like who you identify with. It's like how you want people to perceive you. For like I think like socials is like an insight into someone's soul. Really, it's like if you're sharing songs and stuff, it's like I want people to know that I like this cool shit, you know, or then I'm into this stuff.
No other reason.
No, and it's just like that's what it is. It's showing off, and I feel like that I just do that a lot, and it's like, and it's funny when you think about it for yourself because it's like, yeah, that's what it is. It's just like projecting what's inward outwards, and it's just like a connection thing. It's like I love like say an artist called Tycho, for example, because it makes me feel it's like atmospheric ambient electronic sort of stuff, and it makes me feel clean. It makes me feel like I'm drinking peppermint tea and like healthy and shit. I don't know. It just like it associates with that feeling. So like when brands think about that, it's like in partnerships, it's like what world do we want to create with the people around us that gives us that feeling? Hey.
Yeah, definitely. It's just so much more than, I guess, the piece of content and the way it adheres to like brand guidelines. It's the je ne sais quoi. It's the things that you can't like, you know, quantify with your like physical, I guess, controls. It's about choosing a creator, you know, because they represent the image that you're trying to build, and you can trust them from like a demographic and from a performance perspective that their audience is that audience. Let them do their thing. They're going to do it 10 times better than you can. If that means your product's not featured till 15 seconds, just try it. At least if you've tried it, if it doesn't work, okay, cool. Let's like maybe pivot next time. But if you don't try it and you write it off because of like policy, or you write it off because of process or whatever it might be, more often than not, you're just missing out. Like, because someone else is going to get there faster. And usually it's a smaller brand that is more malleable. And then that's going to hurt more because you've spent so much time building this brand. You've built so much time, I guess, like creating the reputation. And this like tiny like competitor who's existed for 2 weeks has swooped in and signed an exclusivity agreement with your creator because they saw the value before you did.
I love that. And that's the thing that it's funny. Like they're the things that I love thinking about as well. It's like back in the day, maybe 10 years ago, it was like the micro influencers on Instagram. And it was like, back then it was a lot of people just giving people product or payment for followers and things like that. And now you're seeing the like other brands, nimble brands now like attack friendship groups and stuff in social circles. And like, it's just a different way to think about getting your stuff out there rather than just always going for like the biggest audience. And like, you don't really understand that until you probably experience it and realize that like, even with podcasts and stuff, like most people think like the big names get the big listens. It's never the case. It's always ones who haven't told their story before or haven't told it in a compelling way. And it's like, they're the ones that always get more traction. It's just different than just numbers and what you see online. Hey,
110%. People just want the human connection. They want to feel seen. It's like
and that's a good little clip there. I don't mind that. What makes a good partnership in your eyes? I mean, being in this world, I just started in this world. Uh, I'm keen to learn more about the world of partnerships and what makes it great and what you've seen work in the past.
Yeah, partnerships from like a creator lens or partnerships
Yeah,
from, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
creative lens, yeah.
Yeah, cool. I think like trust is the biggest thing, and that's the scariest thing. There needs to be like you can't, I guess, just pick out a creator based on vibe and go, I know that they're right for the business, because there's so many other things you've got to sort of consider. And I think like the industry was built on like big name, big following, give product, just see what you get back in return. But like at the same time, I don't necessarily recall, outside of like some like major like fake tan brands from 2016, anyone who collaborated with like a 2016 like Instagram influencer at the time and what they promoted. Like there's no like memory there. And so I think the biggest thing when it comes to, I guess, a successful partnership is leaning on the creator. They built their platform, they built the industry. Like if we need to zoom out even further, because I think sometimes people like don't necessarily enjoy the thought of like it's their brand, but they're giving like the creative direction, I guess, to the creator. But the reality is like that entire industry only exists because creators started to post. It didn't exist because brands wanted it. It existed because, you know, there was a gap in the market. Creators filled it when TikTok started to be a thing. And now everyone is scrambling and trying to incorporate it into their, I guess, strategies. They've built their platform for a reason. And if you like them on an interpersonal level, and if you've built that relationship with them, you've given them, I guess, like the building blocks, they should be able to build a house for your brand kind of thing, if that makes sense. It might not look like the house you imagined, but, you know, if it's got 4 walls and they don't fall down, does the job. So you need obviously guardrails. I think that's like the main thing you always need. But like a creator, I guess a good creator piece of content should be 20% the brand's like building blocks and 80% the creator's voice. And you need to lean into it for it to work well. If you like the minute, I guess, you try to control it more, it's really obvious. And it might not feel obvious from a brand safety lens, but it will from an audience lens. And when it's something where you're relying on the content feeling, you know, authentic and usual, and that, I guess, something the creator would post, you need to let go a little bit and let the trust be there. And to be honest, all of our successful like viral partnerships have just been, let's integrate this product into this creator's content series, let them do their thing, give them all the controls. And then like, usually if it's for food, it just looks yum and it's easy. Like people hate that. People always want it to be like something really complex and like high status and like a really fine dining dish, but it's like the smashed potato salad that's going to get you 3.5 million views. It's not the, you know, very beautifully plated thing. I think it's all in trust, and that's the scariest thing. But I guess like that's why you hire people to have that as their job in a way. But also that's why you have to like make sure you talk to the creator beforehand, jump on a call with them. Like that's what we used to do when Sticky first launched, because we had no reputation whatsoever. So we'd get all the creators on a call and chat to them and chat them through the brief and like see if they had any questions. And then now like every now and then we might, but we don't necessarily, for efficiencies, obviously, have the time to chat on a call with everybody. But at the time, it was how we were able to build our business. Like if we were just emailing them, they would have thought we were another scam like place that was just trying to like get them to make content and then never pay them. But now it's very obvious that we're real, which is good. But like at the time, people didn't know. It's all on trust, all on relationships again.
You got to let them cook, and that's like
Really?
the best ones, and they're the ones who actually know their audience, and
Yep.
you don't know their audience better than what they do. It's like a respect thing. It's like tattoo culture. Like you enjoy someone's tattoos. Like a lot of people just go in and just trust that they're going to do something cool on their bodies forever because they trust that person. And it's like the hard part is, yeah, doing the prep work and understanding the other values. Do they align with how we want to communicate with the audience? Like, you know, like there's all these different things that go into it, but like putting the frameworks around it, like you mentioned, like human behavior and stuff, like I'm sure there's triggers and emotions and stuff that you play on, but is the creative part the fun part where it's like, all right, well, how do we draw this out with this piece of whatever it is?
Yeah, always. It's like you have all the little pieces, but until you have the right creator and until you have the right story, like those pieces amount to nothing. Like you can know, you know, that your audience buys the product based on just pure convenience. And you know that for some people it's convenience and then it's agitated, you know, for them to purchase because it looks good, or it's agitated because it's cheap, or whatever their driver might be. You can have a beautiful creator brief with so many different content examples and so much content, but until you have the right creator, like they can't see that. And more often than not, the creator needs to actually want your product. Like that's the bit as well that people struggle with, especially coming from what the industry was like 3 years ago, where you could just seed to a whole heap of creators and they'd all post. Like now, like creators need to be picky because they need to uphold their reputation so it has commercial value. But like if you accidentally, miss the part of your process where you actually see if the creator's keen on the product, like that can be your like easiest like loss kind of thing. And then like that can also result, if you're just PR sending out to a creator that maybe you haven't done the research on and they receive a PR box, maybe they'll post and it won't necessarily be positive. So either having like the guardrails to ensure that doesn't happen, or just making sure your due diligence is done. It's like you wouldn't buy a house without like researching the history of the house. It's a bit less of a dramatic investment, but sometimes it's similar. Depending on the creator.
I love that. And it's like, it makes me think like now you've seen a lot of creators start their own brands and things like that. And the success off the back of that, I think like business savvy ones are really doing an amazing job at like monetizing their audience in a real authentic way that feels like a relationship. But I think it's also like you need the right type of business intelligence around, because I feel like they can get in all different types of trouble maybe from like frameworks and stuff point of view. But it's like you've done the really hard part of just capturing that attention and trust. So it's like, how do you just build around it?
Yeah. And honestly, like with influencers, like because it is so rapidly changing, or just the creator landscape, like the policy that governs it as well really rapidly changes. Like you never really know when a new thing's going to come out that suddenly you have to say like, oh wait, don't promote alcohol on a live stream. Not a good idea. Like there's so many like little things that like people aren't aware of. There's like a brand at the moment going through a fine for featuring alcohol in their Coachella content, because they then boosted it as an ad. So obviously then it had to meet TGA standards, and you can't promote like irresponsible drinking, but no one would have thought of that. So like it's like, I don't actually really know why I digressed this far from the point, but like you need to have an understanding of the policy that controls it, but also an acceptance that policy changes. And I think so long as you're very savvy in knowing, what are the legalities and what are the rights as a creator-owned business, and what do you need to disclose, and what do you have to tell the ATO's income, like all those little loops, it's the like future of the industry. Like I think the interesting thing will be seeing who can discern like from the policy do's and policy don'ts, which obviously like that's pretty quick for the most part, but like the reality is like there's a whole heap of gray area in the influencer world. And while some of it has like some clarity, especially around like restricted fields, Australia is behind in the market. They're trying to push as fast as possible, but like influencer marketing from a council perspective is managed by like 4 people and a board. Like there's not that many people like pushing for it, even though it's going to be like, I think it's on track for 2026 to be like a $43.9 billion industry in the US alone. Like Australia's catching up, like not in billions, but catching up in terms of velocity of increase, if you will. So yeah, it's such an interesting world to play in.
Velocity, it's a good word. I need to like throw it into my vocab, I reckon.
Yeah, I was trying to get the team onto velocity last week, and all of them were like, we don't really understand what it means. I was like, what do you mean you don't understand? That and kinetic. I was trying to be like, yeah, like we're really kinetic. And they're like, what's kinetic? I was like kinetic energy, like we push things into motion. And they were like, oh, okay. You were the only one who did physics in school. And I said, okay. That's fine. Call me a nerd.
All right. Before we let you go, I've got this new segment. It's called Fast Five. It's literally first thoughts to these questions. Ready to go?
Ready.
All right. A marketing trend you'd delete tomorrow.
Oh, run, don't walk. I hate that one. You know when people say run, don't walk?
Oh, yes. Yes, it's spelled.
First thing that I think I told someone this morning to remove that from something. So that's really wow.
Top of mind. One tool you couldn't live without.
Ooh, Figma for me personally. I'm Figma's biggest fan. I think I don't know what I'd do without it. I've tried.
See, you're a true like visual. Yeah, that's legit. Death row meal.
Ooh. Well, what came to mind was a McSpicy meal from Macca's, but I don't think that would actually be what I wanted on death row. I sometimes go really hard if I'm hungover for a frozen McCain's pizza, and it actually might be that.
What flavour? What do you have?
Or criminal ham and pineapple.
I
Really,
love that.
it's delicious. You put a little bit of extra salt on it. It's a bit fancy, but like that hungover, incredible.
Oh my God, you're speaking my language. You need to try Supreme too. That's underrated.
I've had the Supreme. They're the top two. Then it probably goes like bacon and cheese, and then the meat lovers one can almost write itself off. I think like it needs to have a little bit of a frozen vegetable.
What about drink?
Or drink, I'd probably opt for and blur it if we need to, but a Coke, zero sugar, tried and tested. That or an iced filter coffee. Has to be filter. Can't be cold brew. Not
I love that. I'd literally drink the same stuff all day, every day.
Yeah.
Coke Zero, what do they call it? The fridge cigarette. It actually is.
Yeah, I regret my addiction. Well, actually, no, I don't really regret my addiction to it because it doesn't have sugar in it. Now, people are going to tell me things about Coke Zero, but I don't know. My dentist says my teeth are fine and I'm still alive. So I'm just going to take that as a good omen.
That's a good sign. Favorite song at the moment?
Oh, I'm really bad with actually having like songs that I'm playing on repeat. I'm like a vibe listener. Probably something from Dijon. I'm a big Dijon fan. I can't tell you which one, but maybe Baby with the exclamation mark at the end. There's like 10 different songs called Baby, but I don't know if that's actually on repeat. I can't remember what I last listened to. I've been into podcasts, which is bad.
Dijon, big answer.
Bad from music lens.
And last one. Great idea, bad execution, or bad idea, great execution?
As in I have one of those?
Yeah, what would you rather? Great idea, bad execution, or bad idea, great execution?
Or probably bad idea, great execution, because I don't think I'd be able to deal with it being bad execution. I thought you were going to ask for my great idea that has bad.
Well, you've got one.
No, for years I've contemplated this idea and I can't do it. As a white woman, I can't do it. But I wanted to start a restaurant that had lots of different iterations of nachos. So like there's like nachos, but then there's like imagine like I don't know, Korean beef bulgogi nachos and it's like topped with corn cheese. Like I think that would be really delicious, but I'm not the right person to execute that. I can just have that idea and think about it, except recently someone on TikTok has started posting it and they're getting a lot of clout and that could have been me. But
that's the worst feeling in the world when you've got stuff in your head and something else and it comes out and you're like, why didn't I miss that moment?
I thought about like 2 years ago as well. I told everyone about it at work. Like people were down because I was going to consult with like proper chefs. So like obviously it wouldn't be me cooking all the food. Like I'd have for the Korean dishes a Korean chef. Like it would be a whole thing. But now I've missed both. Now someone else has had their idea. So it was a great idea, bad execution in that I didn't execute it, and it was also a bad idea in that I was the one having the nacho business idea, just from a cultural perspective. But that's okay.
We're Australian multicultural, you know what I mean? I feel like we're probably the place to have it, you know? It's like every different
love it. Like imagine it's like a fancier like it's like yochi but for nachos, except maybe you can't put your toppings on. Maybe like there's people who put their toppings on. Maybe that's like future evolution. I just think there's something in it.
No, there's not enough respect and love to the nacho. So
that would also be on my death row meal.
Well, that side of nachos. We'll
side of nachos with my pizza, and maybe I take back the Macca's. I love a McSpicy, but it's not. After they changed the patty, that's not on my death row meal anymore. It used to be just a whole chicken thigh. What are you doing?
Yeah.
I've changed it.
McCrispy, have you had that?
I enjoy a McCrispy.
Yeah. And all the burgers, really, besides the filet fish. Like, what are they?
Yeah. I just can't do the cheese on a Macca's burger, so I just steer away from cheesed burgers. But I usually take it off. Yeah.
It's very plasticky, isn't it?
Yeah. I had almond bum growing up. I wasn't exposed to that. And then so when I had it for the first time, age like 12, I was like, what is this?
Yeah. Get that plastic shit away from me.
Literally. Body is a temple. That's why I'm drinking my Coke, no sugar.
Well, I've got a Red Bull, so I'm charging. And it's late afternoon, so I probably won't sleep much tonight. But H, honestly, this has been awesome. I feel like we've got to get you on again before the year's end because I've literally got like 7 or 8 more things I'd love to chat with you about. So we'll save it for another time, but really enjoyed it and pumped to get this chat out there.
Amazing. Thank you. It's been a great time. Pleasure to be on.